Welcome back. I had to get a snack.
Hi.
This is All Things Unexplained, live simul stream, Mystery Science Theater 3000 style viewing of the United States Senate hearing on UFOs. And according to what I'm seeing, it hasn't started yet.
No, it hasn't. Running 12 minutes late, which means that a closed session has some pretty exciting stuff going on.
It also means they were waiting on our guest from a few minutes ago, Dr. Avi Loeb. So this is also our post-Avi Loeb reaction show. CJ, what did you think about our chat with Avi Loeb?
I wish I had more time to ask him 1,000 more questions, but I do think we could sort of gather that the point of today's congressional hearing is for Arrow to get more funding. Or one of the points, anyways. Probably the main one.
And what truth do you think is the best to get more funding?
What truth?
Yeah, that's right.
Hold on. I messed up all my lighting when I thought we were done for the day. When I started folding my laundry and then got a text message from you.
Well, anything goes on these sort of reaction shows from what I've seen.
You watch many of these.
Well, sure, because I watched a live reaction show recently. It was a live stream of one of the Marvel shows the guy was doing. No, it was to a trailer. So they were waiting on a trailer to drop.
Yeah.
And the guy was just much different than his normal video. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so what truth gets Arrow the most money from the Department of the Defense? That there's a threat. And that threat could potentially be of extraterrestrial origin with far more advanced technology than ours. That gets Arrow more money.
Good point. You know what I noticed about Avi Loeb?
What's that?
He got really fired up today.
Very fired up. Oh my gosh. Very fired up.
Like he had the look of sincere anger on his face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But interestingly, the thing he was most fired up about are other people claiming that UFOs and UAPs are a real thing.
Right.
Rather than thinking, oh, these people support what I'm doing, he found them as a hurdle to what he's doing.
Well, I think that the really intense UFO enthusiast sort of present an obstacle to him in science and data collection because they're not patient enough to wait for the tedious, long-term collection of data and then the analysis of that data. You know what I mean? Like they won't. Maybe we all want somebody to just say, hey, like Neil deGrasse Tyson said, walk the alien down to the courthouse square.
Yeah. Yes. But that's assuming that aliens look like some kind of life form, as opposed to, as what he has theorized, which is they're machines, they're technology of alien life forms, which could be tiny little fragments of metal for all we know. Also, I just want to point out that I'm officially the girl that people give Bigfoot mugs to now. Though I think this was from you, but still.
It's still pretty awesome.
And I use it.
And Mr. J helped pick it out.
Ah, that Mr. J.
Smitty was not up for the walk.
I had a dream about Smitty last night.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Dare I ask?
Yeah, it was really interesting. So you and I were going to go visit him in Mississippi. And all of a sudden, we got to like a gated community, and you called him and you're like, "Hey, bro, let us in." And we drove around, and there were just these giant, beautiful estates, and it's surrounded by water. And he lived in one of them in this huge house. I was like, dang.
Did he have on a solid white suit with like a white hat and a goatee?
I never saw Smitty. I only saw his wife. Dreams are so strange.
People call him Colonel. Colonel Smitty.
No, it wasn't quite like that. It was like on the top of a hill. Very, very modern. It was
Something
so
else.
opposite than where he actually lives.
Oh, he actually lives in an antebellum mansion.
Uh-huh.
I was a little afraid to bring up my adventurer Dane Beck fishing story.
Right? I was a little nervous for you. That's actually not what I thought you were going to bring up when I mentioned the water thing. I thought you were going to bring up how is it possible that these dandelion seeds he's speaking of have already been here for billions of years, and the UAPs that we're seeing are coming out from a mothership that left them here a long time ago.
Yeah, I did want to bring that up, but we just ran out of time. Oh, hey. I'll see you. This is from the Time Traveling Blasians. Hey, welcome to the show. Please follow us, Time Traveling Blasians, on all our social media, and follow us on wherever you podcast. I'll see you guys in 20 years from now for more UFO disclosure hearings when there's another economic crisis threatening Western narrative and control. Mañana, mañana, mañana. Well, it may take another 20 years for this hearing to start.
No kidding.
Time Traveling Blasians, who's joining us on YouTube right now, by the way.
I'm looking up what this means.
I think it has something to do with Palladium.
Because, of course, when you type in mañana, you get mañana, Spanish word for tomorrow or morning.
Oh, I thought you were looking up Blasian.
See, I read that as Blasians.
Oh, the ethnic slang term.
I don't know that. Do not say that I just said an ethnic slang term. That's not what I was trying to go for.
Well, the ethnic slang terms are not in and of themselves offensive.
So, we need.
I'm gonna go to Palladian. I'm gonna stick to it's Palladian. It has something to do similar to Palladian. It's not an ethnic slang term.
So I've got something here that says this mañana refers to conceited thoughts. Are we anywhere near the right? I don't know.
Well, he's talking about 20 years from now, so I just thought he meant like it's literally 365 times 20 mañanas. That's what I thought.
I love it. Either way, I love it.
This is our live stream reaction show to the endless wait for the UFO Senate hearing.
Yeah,
and it's also our Post-Avi Loeb reaction show. I tell you something else I wanted to bring up, but I was a little afraid to because he got so angry. But do you remember when he was talking about how, this is really mankind's first experience with such evidence of advanced technology?
I know what you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up, Dr. Loeb, you do know that in Ecclesiastes, an entire city was destroyed by a UFO.
Yeah, but he got really angry about the religious aspect too.
I know, and so for me to combine those in one sentence, the religious aspect and biblical technology encounters, that
Yeah.
was going to be treading on some dangerous territory. But
Yeah. I have to believe that he just gets so much pushback because he gets grouped in with these like fantastical UFO groups. And so it makes it harder for him to get clout and funding, etc. So that's why he gets very frustrated with the people that are giving the just the narratives of their UAP encounters rather than using scientific evidence and coming up with that. So tomorrow. Okay. Now we know. So it is manana, meaning tomorrow.
he did
This
time traveling. They did not clarify what we meant by, or what they mean by Blasian, though. But um, perhaps it's better they did not. But yeah, the I don't know about that. With there's so many interesting aspects. Like I find it hard. I really liked what Eric Bard from Skinwalker Ranch said. And by the way, kudos to you for asking that question,
Thanks.
because sure enough, there's a connection. Oh, and that reminds me of what I was about to say. Do you remember when he was talking? Remind me exactly what Avi Loeb was talking about. He was really annoyed with the comments from somebody in real estate.
Yes.
What did that real
Yes.
estate person do?
So that real estate person was claiming to have information on UFOs and was discrediting Avi Loeb's paper in scientific research. I have to sneeze. You have a
Mute
flashing going
yourself.
on your screen. I will.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn this off.
Okay. But I didn't quite catch what that person did. Like, was it a podcast or a paper or something that the real estate agent wrote? I don't know. But essentially, somebody was claiming to be an expert in ufology and was discrediting something that Avi Loeb was doing, but turns out his actual background is in real estate and not in the sciences.
I have a theory on who that was.
Ooh, tell me.
Well, he said their name later in the show.
Oh, Brandon Fugel.
Brandon Fugel is a real estate mogul.
You're right.
Brandon Fugel is
Now we've got to look up
kind of
Brandon
an
Fugel.
expert on UFOs, according, or at least
Right.
he's in the realm of UFOs. So we might have us a Fugel Loeb feud here.
Feud. You're so right.
Because he was very careful. He talked about the real estate guy first. He was very careful not to say too much about that person or situation.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, when you're saying something like that, the person's name and everything about them is on the tip of your tongue. That is to say, your subconscious is right there on your mind. And it was only a
Yeah.
few minutes later that, whoops, he's talking about
So,
Brandon Fugel. Of course, you
yes.
ask about Skinwalker Ranch, though.
Yeah.
But
So Brandon Fugel tweeted back in on May 21st of 2022 a picture of him and Avi Loeb together. And it said, I had a really good experience speaking with Avi Loeb months ago at the Museum of Science in Boston. We are very interested in partnering with Galileo Project and allowing an installation at Skinwalker Ranch. So I wonder if
wait
Avi
a
Loeb,
minute.
yes, I wonder if Avi Loeb said no, and here are the reasons why. And Brennan Fugel came back and said, actually, I'm kind of an expert in this, and you might be onto something with the feud.
And Avi Loeb said, this is why all our facilities are secret.
Secret.
He also laid out all the reasons why not to be investigating at Skinwalker Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Brandon Fugel's been liking all of our tweets and what are posts
We
on
got to get him on
Instagram
the show.
called?
We got to get on Instagram posts, just
Post
posts,
on Twitter
stories.
is a tweet. What's a post on Instagram? Anyway,
A
he's been
post.
liking all our posts. We should, yeah, get him on, ask him.
We need him on. Discuss the recent announcement. The China's lead scientist for the task force.
It was a good point, though, about the potential for being trolled when you're investigating in a
Right.
public location. Although we do know that that is extremely remote, so that in and of itself should keep trolling down to some minimum. You would think, although you would think that they would also be able to recognize attempts at trolling, unless they were very
Right.
sophisticated attempts. But it's the same reason why it's not a good idea, in the squatching world, to advertise where you're going to look for Bigfoot at, or where you're specifically going. Because
Right.
trust me, if you advertise where you're going to look for Bigfoot, you may very well find Bigfoot, but it may not be the one you want to find.
That's true.
This might be a
People
couple of
are
good old boys whooping from the hilltop, tree knocking.
You're right. Yeah, he has a good point.
Well,
He is very, very strict about his scientific standards and how he approaches things, which I appreciate. He is very committed to what he's doing, passionate about what he's doing, vocal about his naysayers and people that are getting in his way and what they're doing wrong. He has no problem saying when he thinks somebody is in the wrong. He truly believes that he is doing everything the right way and that possibly he's the only one doing everything the right way. But I think that you have to have that mindset to go and do what it is that he's doing. Has it begun? No.
I just refreshed the screen just to see. So I don't know. But let me get this straight. Brandon Fugel tweeted that, hey, here's me with Avi Loeb. We're excited to be putting a Galileo
No.
project facility or a
No,
research station
you
on our
misheard
property.
me. You misheard me. No. He said that he was asking him if he wanted to put a Galileo um, telescope on their property. Not that he said
Oh.
yes.
Well, if you're just joining us, we're waiting for this UFO Senate hearing to start on UFOs. And we're
Yeah.
also having a post Avi Loeb reaction chat because CJ and I just talked to Avi Loeb, who was late for the show, who was late for our show because of all the people trying to talk to him about this very hearing we're waiting on, by the way. And then he had to get out of there by 10:30 because this was supposed to start at 10:30.
He's so involved. I'm back to the double agent, triple agent thing. Anyways, Brandon Fugel wrote, I had a really good experience speaking with Avi Loeb months ago at the Museum of Science in Boston. We are very interested in partnering with Galileo Project and allowing an installation at Skinwalker Ranch. So just interested in. And according to Avi Loeb, that's a no-go based on what he said to us today.
Well, that's wild. I mean, we really need to get Brandon Fugel
I know.
on the show, and he almost was on with us. It ended up being Eric Bard and Thomas Winterton, but man, I would like to
Who were
know more about
incredible.
that. Yes. But it does lend credence to our belief, and by the way, I've seen it both ways on what people think of Skinwalker Ranch. But you and I both were convinced after talking with Eric and Thomas that these guys are doing legitimate scientific
Oh, absolutely. I
research
have no
at
doubt.
Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes.
And the fact that lends credence to that, the fact that they're interested in putting the Galileo project facility there, that they would like to.
Yeah.
And obviously that would lend, it's catch 22, right? You know, now you have a show on History Channel. Now people all over the world are interested in what you're doing there, but also it kind of takes away from your credibility, the fact that it's a TV show. So I could see
Yeah.
where they would definitely be interested in partnering up with a well-known scientific establishment.
Yeah. We are totally gonna have to go back and listen to exactly what he said before he mentioned the real estate thing. I think you're right. I think he's talking about Brandon Fugel.
Yes. Has to be, right? I mean, it just makes total sense.
Yeah,
It
because
all fits in.
who else could get under his skin other than somebody that actually has some, like, clout right now?
And it probably recently happened.
Mhm.
One thing we wanted to know about with season 4, are there gonna be any collaborations that they get into with other
Yeah.
UFOs, search organizations, and they just kinda said, Stay tuned." That would be an epic episode, them collaborating. "Hey, let's welcome in the folks from the Galileo Project,
Mhm.
episode 5, season 4,"
Yeah, yeah.
that sort of thing. Wait, what was the date on that tweet?
That was, it was May of 2022, but it
May
had
of
said but it had said months ago that it had happened. It was May 21st, 2022, but he said, "Avi Loeb months ago at the Museum of Science in Boston."
Well, there you go. That would align perfectly with an attempt at getting them on season 4, for example,
Mhm.
or getting something up.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
I
guess I need to get on Twitter.
probably it's where I get all my news. I mean, that's the kind of thing you're not gonna find that out anywhere else.
Right. Alright, well, this thing doesn't look to be starting anytime soon. I can hop back on when it
Okay, I'm
does.
gonna leave the studio open. I'm just gonna leave it open. I don't know if I should do that, but why not? I'm just gonna leave it live broadcasting and open, and they gotta go on eventually, right?
Okay, text me when they do.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
So if you're watching and you are waiting along with us for the beginning of the Senate UFO hearing, CJ jumped in here with me too. We also had a post Avi Loeb reaction show or chat. Avi Loeb came on with CJ and myself this morning. He was late, interestingly, to join us because of all the people hitting him up about this hearing. In case you didn't know, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who's supposed to be speaking at the hearing, co authored a paper recently with Avi Loeb which went into motherships potentially seeding the Earth with probes. Yeah, alien motherships. Well, anyway, Dr. Loeb had to get off with us by 10:30 for the start of this hearing, and here we go. We're still waiting. And pretty epic show this morning with Avi Loeb too. If you haven't checked it out, it should be available now on our Facebook at All Things Unexplained Podcast. It should be available on our Twitter now at AT Unexplained. And it should be available on our YouTube, All Things Unexplained Podcast. Or sorry, All Things Unexplained. That's our YouTube. But we're just waiting here for the Senate committee hearing to start. Apparently, they are still in closed session, or they had a closed session before the public session.
So some of that, I think, sir, we'll save for closed session.
Always saving the good stuff for closed session. So they're either in a break between closed session and the public session, or the closed session is still going. I'm going to step aside. It's been a long morning for me, and I'm going to grab a snack, and I'll be back. If you have any comments, you want to join in some chat with me, CJ may be back on with us too. Feel free to post them. I'll put them up. I'll take any questions or comments. I'll be right back.
I can't hear anything.
I hear it.
Oh, shoot. Hold on. Okay.
You should hear it.
I don't hear it, which makes me wonder.
It's coming through.
I don't hear it at all.
Do you hear this?
Yep. I hear you chewing.
The only way we can prove whether the sound's coming through is if you join like live somewhere.
I'm looking for us on YouTube, which I guess I put that on my Instagram, so I can click there. Give me a sec. No, it's not coming through. You talk for a second.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Except I'm hearing them. Can you hear me on there? Can you hear me? Let me try some. I'm hearing them.
I can hear you. It's delayed, but I'm hearing you
there.
and me, but
Can you
I'm
hear
not
me?
hearing them come through on the live broadcast. Okay, getting better.
Testing 1.
Needs to be louder.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Now it's gone.
I don't hear you now. Testing 1, 2, 3. Yes, no.
I hear you. I don't hear her.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
I hear you. I don't hear her.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
You.
Now I lost the sound too. So hold on, let me see something here. Mic. Speaker. Let's try this. Testing 1, 2, 3.
I hear you. I just don't hear
Testing 1,
him.
2, 3.
I still hear you.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
I hear you.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Well, dang, I don't really know what to do. I think. Wait a minute. I think we're gonna have to jump off because I just can. Can you hear me? You're muted.
I know I'm muted because I'm trying to listen to it on my phone.
The spotlight.
Can you hear me?
I hear you and your phone.
Okay.
Good. I don't have an explanation.
No, but those are the crunchiest cucumbers I've ever heard in my life.
It's a good mic.
Okay. Well, I want to listen to this, so maybe we'll listen to it and then do a follow-up show.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Defense David Norquist observed, had any of these objects had the label made in China, there would be an uproar in the government and media. There would be no stone unturned and no effort spared to find out what we were dealing with. We can look at the recent incursion of the unidentified PRC high-altitude balloon.
I ask for your patience as DoD first prioritizes the safety and security of our military personnel and installations in all DoD and IC platforms, featuring the nation's most advanced sensors, are those UAP most likely to be resolved by my office, assuming the data can be collected. If AARO succeeds in first improving the ability of military personnel to quickly and confidently resolve UAP they encounter, I believe that in time we will have greatly advanced the capability of the entire United States government, including its civilian agencies, to resolve UAP. However, it would be naive to believe that the resolution of all UAP can be solely accomplished by the DoD and IC alone. We will need to prioritize collection and leverage authorities for monitoring all domains within the continental United States. AARO's ultimate success will require partnerships with the interagency, industry partners, academia, and the scientific community, as well as the public. AARO is partnering with the services, intelligence community, DOE, as well as civil partners. Activity and transparency in the study of UAP. I want to underscore today that only a very small percentage of UAP reports display signatures that could reasonably be described as anomalous. The majority of unidentified objects reported to AARO demonstrate mundane characteristics of balloons, unmanned aerial systems, clutter, natural phenomena, or other readily explainable sources. While a large number of cases in our holdings remain technically unresolved, this is primarily due to a lack of data associated with those cases. Without sufficient data, we are unable to reach defendable conclusions that meet the high scientific standards we set for resolution, and I will not close a case that I cannot defend the conclusions of. I recognize that this answer is unsatisfying to those who in good faith assume that what they see with their eyes, with their cameras, and with their radars is incontrovertible evidence of extraordinary characteristics and performance. Yet time and again, with sufficient scientific quality data, it is fact that UAP often, but not always, resolve into readily explainable sources. Humans are subject to deception and illusions, sensors to unexpected responses and malfunctions, and in some cases, intentional interference. Getting to the handful of cases that pass this level of scrutiny is the mission of AARO. That is not to say that UAP, once resolved, are no longer of national security interest, however. On the contrary, learning that a UAP isn't of exotic origin, but is instead just a quadcopter or balloon, leads to the question of who is operating that quadcopter and to what purpose. The answers to those questions will inform potential national security or law enforcement responses. AARO is a member of the department's support to the administration's Tiger Team effort to deal with stratospheric objects such as the PRC high-altitude balloon. When previously unknown objects are successfully identified, it is AARO's role to quickly and efficiently hand off such readily explainable objects to the intelligence, law enforcement, or operational safety communities for further analysis and appropriate action. In other words, AARO's mission is to turn UAP into SEP, somebody else's problem. The U.S. government, the DoD and the IC in particular, has tremendous capabilities to deal with those encountered objects. In the wake of the PRC HAB event, the interagency is working to better integrate and share information to address identifiable stratospheric objects, but that is not AARO's lane. Meanwhile, for the few cases in all domains, space, air, and sea, that do demonstrate potentially anomalous characteristics, AARO exists to help the DoD, IC, and interagency resolve those anomalous cases. In doing so, AARO is approaching these cases with the highest level of objectivity and analytic rigor. This includes physically testing and employing modeling and simulation to validate our analyses and underlying theories. then peer reviewing those results within the U.S. government, industry partners, and appropriately cleared academic institutions before reaching any conclusions.
Can you hear
I should
CJ?
also state
Yep.
clearly for the record that in our research, Arrow has found no credible evidence thus far of extraterrestrial activity, off-world technology, or objects that defy the known laws of physics. In the event sufficient scientific data were ever obtained that a UAP encountered can only be explained by extraterrestrial origin, we are committed to working with our interagency partners at NASA to appropriately inform U.S. government's leadership of its findings. For those few cases that have leaked to the public previously and subsequently commented on by the U.S. government, I encourage those who hold alternative theories or views to submit your research to credible peer-reviewed scientific journals.
Avi Loeb's in his ear.
Do the same. That is how science works, not by blog or social media. We know that
They've
there
had
is
lots of
tremendous public
conversations.
interest in UAP and a desire for answers from Arrow. By its very nature, the UAP challenge has for decades lent itself to mystery, sensationalism, and even conspiracy. For that reason, Arrow remains committed to transparency, accountability, and to sharing as much with the American public as we can, consistent with our obligation to protect not only intelligence sources and methods, but U.S. and allied capabilities. However, Arrow's work will take time if we are committed to do it right. It means adhering to the scientific method and the highest standards of research integrity. It means being methodical and scrupulous. It means withholding judgment in favor of evidence. It means following the data where it leads, wherever it leads. It means establishing scientific peer-reviewed theoretical underpinnings of observed data. And Arrow is committed to all of those standards. I'm proud of Arrow's progress over
But
the
you
last
just wrote a
9 months.
paper on alien
Much
motherships.
remains to be done, but hard work is underway. Thank you for your continued
With
support.
like
And
endless
before we turn to
theories.
questions, I'm going to walk you through some of our analytical trends and a couple of cases that we've prepared.
Audio
Yeah,
and
this whole
video a
So one
little
of the things
offline.
that Arrow does is high
Adhering to
integrity
science
analysis, as I've
and
said.
releasing a paper that talks about
This chart
a mothership
represents
releasing
the
dandelion
trend
seeds
analysis
that are
of
self-propagating
all
on our
the
planet.
cases in Arrow's holdings, right, to date. What you'll see on the left is a histogram of all of our reported sightings as a function of altitude. So most of our sightings occur in the 15 to 25,000 foot range, and that is ultimately because that's where a lot of our aircraft are. On the far right upper corner, you'll see a breakout of the morphologies of all of the UAP that are reported. Over half, about
hard to see
52% of what's been reported to us are round orb spheres. The rest of those break out into all kinds of different other shapes. The gray box is essentially there's no data on what its shape is. Either it wasn't reported or the sensor did not collect it. The bottom map is a heat map of all reporting areas across the globe that we have available to us. What you'll notice is that there is
They're
a
all on the
heavy, what we
coast.
call
We're in a hot
collection
spot.
bias, both in altitude and in geographic location. That's where all of our sensors exist. That's
Oh.
where our training ranges are. That's where our operational ranges are. That's where all of our platforms are.
And why
In
is
the
that?
middle, what we have done is reduce the most typically reported UAP characteristics to these fields, mostly round, mostly 1 to 4 meters, white, silver, translucent, metallic, 10,000 to 30,000 feet, with apparent velocities from stationary to Mach 2. No thermal exhausts usually detected. We get intermittent radar returns. We get intermittent radio returns, and we get intermittent thermal signatures.
8 to
That's what
12
we're looking for.
gigahertz.
And trying to understand
That's
what
on
that
the
is.
radar, but the radio is the 1 to 3 gigahertz.
Excellent.
That 1.6.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to walk you through 2 cases that we've declassified recently. This first one is an MQ-9 in the Middle East, observing that blow up, which is an
This is
apparent
the Mosul
spherical
orb.
object via
Yes.
EO sensors. Those are not IR. you want to go ahead and click that and play it.
Oh, there's a video.
You'll see it come through the top of the screen.
What in
There
the
it
heck?
goes, and then the camera will slew to follow it. You'll
That's
see
the
it
Moses
pop
Orb.
in and
Jeremy
out of the
Corbell
field
released
of
that.
view
Right.
there.
Oh, it is following it.
This is essentially all of the data we have associated with this event from some years
Holy
ago.
cow.
It is going to be virtually impossible to fully identify that just based off of that video. Now,
Wow.
what we can do and what we are doing is keeping that as part of that group of 52%
Oh my gosh, I want to watch that again.
to see what are the similarities, what are the trends across all of these? Do we see these in a particular distribution? Do they all behave the
That
same or
gives me
not?
chills.
As we get more data, we will be able to go back and look at these in a fuller
But
context.
there's no drones that look like that.
How are we going to get more data?
That
We
we
are
know of.
working with the joint staff to issue guidance to all the services and commands that will then establish
And how big
what
was
are the
that?
reporting requirements, the timeliness, and all of the data that is required to be delivered to us and retained.
What was the
How did Jeremy
altitude?
from all
Corbell
the
get that
associated
information before?
sensors.
When was it declassified?
That historically hasn't been the case, and
It's
it's
been
been
a
happenstance that data
month
has been
ago.
collected.
2 months?
Next slide. This particular event, South Asia MQ9, looking at another MQ9, and what's highlighted there in that red circle is an object that flies through the screen. Unlike the previous one, this one actually shows some really interesting things that everyone thought was truly anomalous to start with. First of all,
Okay.
it's a high-speed object that's flying in the field of regard of 2 MQ9s. Second, it appears to have this trail behind it, all right, which at first blush, you would think that looks like a propulsion trail. In reality, if you want to play the first slide, we'll show you what that looks like in real time, or first video. So we're
Ooh.
looking at that. There it goes. Why don't you play it again and then pause it halfway through? Right there. All right, if you might be able to see that trail there behind it. That's actually not a real trail. That is a sensor artifact. Each one of those little blobs is actually a representation of the object as it's moving through. And later in the video, as the camera slews, that trail actually follows the direction of the camera, not the direction
It's very
of
similar to the
object.
Baghdad Phantom.
We
Mhm.
pulled these apart frame by frame. We were able to demonstrate that that is essentially a readout overlap of the image. It's a shadow image, right? It's
So these
not real.
MQ9s are
Further,
remotely
if
operated
you later
aircraft. They're
follow
drones,
this all the way to
essentially.
end, it starts to resolve itself into
I think
that
so.
blob that's in that picture in the top left, right? And if you squint, it looks like an aircraft because it actually turns out to be an aircraft. Go ahead and put that on. So you'll see the tail sort of pop out there. And so what you're looking at is, this is in the infrared, this is the heat signature off of the engines of a commuter aircraft that happened to be flying in the vicinity of where those 2 MQ9s were at. Why am I showing you this?
Commuter
So the
aircraft.
first one that I showed you, we don't have resolved yet, right? That is an unresolved case we are still studying. This one we can resolve, but this is the kind of data that we have to work with. And the
How are you
type
going
of
to tell me that's a
analysis that
commuter
we have to do,
aircraft
which can be
next
quite
to that
extensive
drone?
when you have to pull these apart frame by frame. Further, we're now matching all of this with the models of all of those imaging sensors so that I can say, I can recreate this. I can actually show how the sensor is going to respond. All of these sensors don't necessarily respond the way you think they do, especially out in the world and in the field. And I believe that's all I have, and I will open it up for your
That's-
questions.
Quick
Thank you so
presentation.
much, Dr. Kirkpatrick. Can you just give us some raw numbers of how many UAPs you've analyzed, how many have been resolved, and sort of in what buckets, and then how many are still left to be resolved? Just an update from your January public report where it was 366 or something, and about 150 were balloons, and about 24 were drones. You know, just give us an update if you have one.
Sure. So as of this week, we are tracking over a total of 650 cases. Now, the report in January basically said about half of the ones at that time, about 150, were likely balloon-like or something like that. That doesn't mean they're resolved.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so what, let me walk everyone through what our analytic process looks like. We have essentially a 5-step process, right? So we get our cases in with all the data. We create a case for that.
Who's the guy wearing
event.
shorts behind him? That's what I want to know.
My team does a preliminary scrub of all of those cases
Come on.
as they come in, just to sort out, do we have any information that says this is in one of those likely categories? It's likely a balloon, it's likely a balloon, a bird, it's likely some other object, or we don't know. Then we prioritize those based off of where they are. Are they attached to a national security area? Does it show some anomalous phenomenology that is of interest? If it's just a spherical thing that's floating around with the wind and it has no payload on it, that's going to be less important than something that has a payload on it, which will be less important than something that's maneuvering, right? So there's sort of a hierarchy of just binning the priorities because we can't do all of them at once. Once we do that and we prioritize them, when we take that package of data in that case, and I have set up 2 teams, think of this as a red team, blue team, or a competitive analysis. I have an intelligence community team made up of intelligence analysts, and I have an S&T team made up of scientists and engineers and the people that actually build a lot of these
Avi Loeb.
sensors or physicists, because, you know, if you're
He
a physicist,
is part
you
of
can
this.
do
He
anything. Right?
says he's not, but he is.
But they're not associated with the intel community. They're not intel
Yes.
officers.
See,
So
right
they
there.
they
Avi
look at
Loeb.
this through the lens of the
Plausible
sensor, of
deniability.
what the data says.
Mhm.
We give that package to both teams. The intelligence community is going to look at it through the lens of the intelligence record and what they assess and their intel tradecraft, which they have very specific rules and regulations on how they do that. Scientific community, technical community is going to look at it through the lens of what is the data telling me? What is the sensor doing? What would I expect a sensor response to be? And back that out. Those 2 groups give us their answers. We then adjudicate. If they agree, then I am more likely to close that case if they agree on what it is. If they disagree, we will have an adjudication. We'll bring them together. We'll take a look at the differences. We'll adjudicate why do you say one thing and you say another. We will then come to a case recommendation. That'll get written up by my team. That then goes to a senior technical advisory group, which is outside of all of those people, made up of senior technical folks and intel analysts and operators from retired out of the community.
Really makes me wish I'd gotten a different
and they,
degree.
They essentially peer review what that case recommendation
That's what I was thinking.
is.
I want that to be my job.
They write their
analyzing
recommendations.
UFO
That comes
videos.
back to me. I review it. We make a determination, and I'll sign off one way or the other. And then that will go out as the case
I
determination.
wonder if Brandon Fugel has
Once
met
we have an approved
Sean
web
Kirkpatrick.
portal to hang the unclassified stuff, we will we would downgrade and declassify things and put it out there. In the meantime, we're putting a lot of these on our classified web portal where we can then collaborate with the rest of the community so they can see what's going on. That's, in a nutshell, that is the process, right? So because of that, that takes time. So of those over 650, we've prioritized about half of them to be of anomalous, interesting value. And now we have to go through those
time
and
do you
go,
have to
how
go?
much do I have actual data for?
Soon.
Because if all I have is a operator report
Well,
that says I saw X, Y,
we've got
or
no
Z,
viewers
my
now,
assessment is
so
A, B, or C.
May as well just
That's
top
not
off
really sufficient. That's
Yeah.
a good place to start,
Okay.
and watch
but I have
independently.
to have
Yes.
data. I have to have
Okay.
radar data, I have to have
Thank you.
EO data, I have to have thermal data, I have to have overhead data, and we need to look at all that. Now, from a big picture perspective, I still